beauty babes, welcome to my channel. I'm Maria, aka Agape Love Girl. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is a little bit of a long time coming. Been meaning to film this video for a bit. Was supposed to put it up, I'm sure, last month, but it's been kind of crazy. But I'm not gonna ramble on and on. I really do just want to get right into this video. And today we are going to be doing my almost full face of hard candy makeup products. I'm going to be applying the products so you guys can see them in action and sharing a little bit more of an updated thoughts and review on these products. I'm going to start off with the Hard Candy Sheer Envy Fix It Serum. This is supposed to help with redness relief, and I have been using this a few times off and on throughout the last month, and I don't know if I really see a difference with it yet. Maybe applying it on camera you might be able to see a difference over time as this video goes on. Okay, and then I'm also going to prep my eyes using the Instant Eye Fix Under Eye Treatment. I put this in my makeup basket, and I've been wanting to remember to use this, but I actually keep forgetting, so I haven't really used this a ton. But the couple times that I have used it, I did really like it, so I just need to remember to use it. I like this little metal applicator. It's very, very cooling and soothing. I'm going to just kind of apply it like this a little bit, and then I'll kind of rub it in with my fingers. And I'm not squeezing any more out, I'm just rubbing that product all around. Now this is supposed to depuff, brighten, smooth, prime, and moisturize your eyes. And I do feel like it has a little bit of a firming effect, like for that depuffing, and I do really like it quite a bit, but I definitely need to use it more to really develop my thoughts. I've been saying that for over a month, and yeah, I keep forgetting it. It's just like one of those extra step products you kind of forget about. Anyway, so while I'm letting that stuff kind of sink into my skin, I'm going to be using their Max Pout Plumping Serum. It's basically just like a clear lip gloss. It's supposed to be like a little bit of a plumping serum. This is something that I actually really like as well. The consistency of this gloss feels really, really nice. Just very, very smooth, not sticky. Has a very, very slight tingling sensation, but not like a burning sensation. It's more just like a cooling, like it's got a little bit of menthol or something, or peppermint in there, but not a crazy intense feeling at all. Alright, and I do have two palettes from Hard Candy. I have this one, which is the Earthly Vixen one, and then I have this one, which is the Rose Gold one. And then really quickly I want to talk about this. This is their Glitterazzi like liquid glitter shadow. This I will not be using today just because I did already do a demo using it, as well as the Rose Gold palette in an IGTV video. So if you would like to see this in action, I will link that video. I definitely encourage you guys to check it out. And this is one of the products that was a hit for me. This is one that I would totally recommend. I love that it is dual-ended, so you get two colors, and I feel like, if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of the items that was $5 or maybe $6, so very, very affordable, especially considering you are getting two colors. So the one I got is Mad About Mars, so you get this really beautiful metallic red shade, and on this other side is the much more glittery shade, and it's kind of like a duochrome orange, yellow, red, green-ish kind of a shade. And as you can see, they do have these doe foot applicators. They're really easy to use. They're really, really beautiful. They stay on really, really well. So this was a hit for me, and I would recommend this. This is probably one of the main things I would recommend from the brand Hard Candy out of everything that I've tried. So I really like that. Anyways, back to the eyeshadow palettes. I'm going to go ahead and insert a few photos of the looks I've created with these palettes so you guys can see some of the different looks that I have created while using these over the past month. I didn't do a ton of looks just because every time I went to use these palettes, I found myself very disappointed and just really not wanting to use them. I kind of had to force myself to use them because I knew I needed to create different looks, or wanted to create different looks, just so you guys can see, you know, some of the different shadows in action. But funny enough, a lot of the looks I ended up creating were very, very similar. A lot of red toned looks and things like that. So I really wanted to be able to create a variety of looks for you guys to see, you know, what you can do with these palettes. But I will say that overall I was not very impressed with these palettes. You guys will see them in action and, you know, can decide for yourself, but personally I would not recommend them. So for today's look, I'm actually just going to be grabbing a few shades from both of the palettes to see if we come up with little bit more of a creative look today. So with that, I am going to go ahead and prime my eyes using the Hard Candy Eyeshadow Primer. So I actually do think that primer is a pretty decent primer. I think it was only $5 and it works really well. But anyways, I'm going to start off this look by going into the Rose Gold palette, and I'm going to be dipping into this kind of a light brown shade. It is called Sweet Nothing, and I'm going to take it on just this round fluffy blending brush and bring that to my crease and transition area. Alright, and then going into the Earthly Vixen palette, I'm going to go into the red shade up here, and that is called Blaze. I'm going to be using it with one of my Stilazzi mini crease brushes, and just be placing that kind of on the outer corner, outer crease of my eye. I don't want to apply too much of this. I just want enough to get a little bit of depth. As you can see, the matte red shade actually does have a pretty impressive amount of pigmentation. I definitely prefer the mattes in these palettes a lot more than the shimmers, although both the mattes and the shimmers are a very, very dry formula, so they can be a little bit difficult to work with and take some building up. Then just going back in with that first blending brush I used, I'm just going to run over everything just to give it a nice soft blend. I want to kind of soften those colors up and meld them together. Just so it doesn't look too red, I just really want to get a little bit of depth to this look. Okay, and I think I'm just going to dip in a little bit to that yellow shade Sunrise from the Earthly Vixen palette, just with that same blending brush I was using. And just blend that right above everything else. I kind of want to develop a little bit of an orangey color. All right, next I'm going to grab some concealer and take it on a flat brush and just bring that to the inner portion of my lid. I'm not going to quite do a cut crease. You'd probably also do this with the primer, but I just know I want more of a blank canvas on my eyelid because I'm going to be using a matte shade. If I were using a shimmer shade, I would probably just use the primer. And it doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, I'm not trying to go for a cut crease. I just really want like a little bit of a blank canvas. And I will do a little bit of blending so it looks softer. All right, now with that very same brush, I just wiped it off on this towel so there's no dampness to it. I'm going to be going into the Rose Gold palette again and going into the shade Single, which is just this kind of cream matte shade. And honestly, there's a similar shade in the other palette as well. I'm just kind of trying to go back and forth using both of the palettes evenly, so whichever one, it doesn't matter. Although, like I said, I'm not really recommending these palettes, so I don't know if you guys would run out and buy them to recreate this look, but I'm just letting you know. Anyways, and I'm just going to pat this right over top where I placed the concealer. Alright, now going back in with my tiny little brush, I'm going to go back into the red shade I used and just a little bit of this yellow and just blend right above where I laid that cream shade down, just so, like I said, I want it to look soft and not so much like a harsh cut crease. Alright, and switching back over to the Rose Gold palette, I'm going to be going into this kind of coppery orange shade that is called First Date. I'm going to be taking it on a synthetic brush. This one is from Beauty Junkies. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply this on the outer corner, kind of where the red shade and that cream shade meets. Okay, yeah, this isn't doing anything. I don't know if you can see. It literally just flakes off. These shadows are just so dry that like nothing, it doesn't stick. So I've loaded up the brush just so you can see. And this is my issue with the shadows, is like, do you see how it just, I mean, now it's applying, now that I've gone in with that second layer, but barely. This has been my issue with it. If I kind of really push and force, but look at all the fallout too. This is my issue with them. I just don't think they are very good shadows. They're just too dry, too flaky. Anyways, you can create some pretty looks with them, but they're just not worth it in my opinion. So I'm going to zoom back out and we're going to spray this and then go in. And as per usual, I'm going to load up my brush first. I always recommend everybody do this. Don't spray your brush and then dip into your shadows, because a wet brush dipping into shadows will cause hard pan. And so if you load it up and then spray it, it's going to create a much more beautiful effect and not ruin your shadows. So got it loaded up. I'm going to give it a spray. So do you see that? Much more of a really pretty metallic effect. They can be really, really pretty. They just are way too dry. The formula is not great. And while I feel like a lot of people already do this, they already use setting spray with their shadows, so it might not bother some of you, but I just, sometimes you don't want to go through the hassle of doing all the extra steps. You just want products to perform. And it's understandable if it's like a one shade from a palette, but when it's all of them, I don't, yeah. That's why these are just not a recommend for me. So as you can see, it does create a really beautiful foiled kind of metallic effect once you spray them. These shadows can be beautiful, but there's also a ton of fallout still even after I sprayed them. So yeah, you can just see the difficulties I've been having with these. All right, next up, I'm going to be trying to do a winged liner look, and I'm going to attempt this, but I have a feeling that it won't do much. You may or may not have noticed that in the photos I shared of the looks I created, only one of them was with a winged liner, and that is because I use this liner to, you know, to create the winged liner look, and the pen started drying out within that very first time using it. So I didn't use it again after that because I was worried that it would dry out before I even had a chance to show it to you on camera. So I thought, I'm just not going to use it again until I can use it on camera, and we'll see. And I'm shaking it now even just to make sure if there's any ink in there or anything, hopefully it will show up, but if not, you guys will see. And even though this is a very cheap liner, it's like was only $5, it's not worth it if it doesn't even work. So let's hope that this works. Okay, it's actually doing pretty good. It's not like super pigmented, but it's doing better than I remember the one time. I could tell it still feels a little bit dry, but I am shaking it, so I wonder if that helped a little bit, because it's applying better than it was. But like I said, it does feel a little bit dry, but it's still applying, so maybe there is a little bit of hope for it. Still probably would not recommend. Okay, see, that's what it did. It must have been on the second line. Goodness gracious. Let me shake this up a little bit. Okay, you shake it up, it works, but wing liner is hard enough as it is, so it's even worse if you have a pen that's not really like working with you, if it's too dry and it's not really giving you the pigmentation, so then you have to keep going over it, and that I feel like just makes creating a wing liner even harder. Alright, so we did create a wing. Doesn't look too bad, but you did see a little bit of difficulty that I had when I went to swipe and like nothing showed up. It was kind of like that for me pretty much the first time I used it, just very, very dry. It took a lot to kind of build up. A little bit frustrating, so no. I am going to do my lower lash line after I do my whole face and just come back to finish my eyes. But first I want to show you guys this. I was really, really excited about this, and now I know this will not match my look whatsoever, but it's not really going to matter because this does not show up the way I want it to. It may work if you're going to use it like on your eyelid, on your skin, because like it shows up like this on my skin. I just never ended up creating any like super pinky looks to use this on my eyelid space. What I wanted it for was I was hoping this would be a really pretty bright pink liner for my waterline, but it does not show up on the waterline, unfortunately. Now that may or may not make this a dud for you personally, but for me it does, just because that's what I wanted it for. So now we're gonna go in with the face products. I do have the Hard Candy Glamflage foundation, and I did grab their primer to use. I did do a first impressions of the foundation in my haul video, as well as a check-in at the end of the day using a different primer. So if you have not seen my first impressions of this foundation, I will link that video. Again, I do encourage you to watch it as well. I also did do a complete wear test. I believe I did a final check-in after 10 hours of wearing this foundation, and even did a workout and showed you guys how it looked after a workout at the end of the day. And The results are a little bit interesting. Let me actually just get to putting this on my face first before I talk a little bit more. But this is the long wear primer, so I'm going to be using that. Anyways, I don't want to say much about what I have to say about this foundation, because you could hear it in the wear test footage that I took, because I did that like a couple weeks ago, and I just don't want to repeat myself or make this video longer than it needs to be. So all the products that I'm using on my face today is what I used for my wear test, and I give you guys my thoughts of the foundation, close up how it looks in natural lighting, and all of that good stuff. So if you want to see how it wore, my thoughts on it, and all of that, that footage is going to be at the end of this video. I'll put a timestamp, or if you just watch the end, you know, you'll see it. But I got this shade Olive. I do like that it has a doe foot applicator. I'm not someone who's bothered by that. So here's how it's looking, kind of with that first very, very minimal layer. I think my skin looks pretty nice, but it doesn't cover as well as it would if you were gonna, you know, really apply the proper amount or more. I'm not upset about this kind of coverage. I always say this, but I prefer a lighter coverage foundation rather than looking heavier, feeling cakey, or anything like that. But just for the sake of covering just a little bit more, I am going to add just a touch more of this foundation, just so you guys can see a little bit more of its full potential. Oh goodness, I shouldn't have done that second little layer. Even though it's just a little bit, I feel like my forehead, it's already looking bad, and it's not like moving. Like there's this, like the product's like staying right here, and I'm not able to like move it and push it up into my hairline. I'm not sure how well you guys can see with these lights, but, and also like in my wrinkles right here, it's just like crinkling right up in there. It's not just blending. This is almost like sticky to where it's like just staying on top of my skin and not melding in with it. Yeah, it just makes my pores look terrible too. Oh my gosh. Like, oh my god, this is probably the worst I've seen it look on me, actually. What the heck? Maybe it's the primer, because I feel like on its own the foundation looked pretty decent. The biggest thing about this is that on its own it doesn't last 16 hours. I feel like around the 5-6 hour mark it starts breaking up and not looking, it doesn't last. But it doesn't do this, what's happening to my face. With the primer it definitely lasts, but there's something about it that makes it sticky. This is not good. It's not pretty. It makes me feel very, very insecure. I don't like the way this looks. Okay, I show you guys my skin up close all the time, with foundation, without foundation. I know I have pores and my skin isn't perfect, but have you guys ever seen my skin look this terrible up close? Like my pores look this pronounced and my fine lines and wrinkles look that pronounced. I don't think I've ever seen my pores and my wrinkles look that bad, ever. Especially up close. And no one, I know no one looks at your face that close up. I'm just showing you guys what I can see when I look close at my face, so you guys can see what I'm talking about, how bad this truly looks and why I do not like this. And it's weird because I feel like this looks even worse than I remember it. But yeah, I am not happy with this, with the way this looks, and I feel like it really is because of the primer. I don't know what it is. What is the deal with this primer or this foundation or the mix of the two? Considering they're from the same brand, they really should perform well together, but there's something about this primer just being so weirdly sticky and not wanting the foundation to move that it is not doing well. And so actually what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and wash my face off. I'm going to obviously keep my eye makeup intact, but I'm going to wipe this off. I don't like this, and I don't want to, I'm embarrassed to even keep my face like this for the rest of the day. Alright, so I just decided to go ahead and show you guys the second application. I'm just going to speed right through it. Now, to give this foundation a little bit of a chance, I just went ahead and primed my skin with the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better Primer Plus. This is the one that's been in my makeup basket this month. I feel like I added a decent amount of foundation, not too much, but not too little. That way I didn't have to go in with a second layer, and I definitely feel like it applied much better this time. Everything blended a lot smoother over that other primer, and nothing is looking super stuck in any of my fine lines or over my pores. It doesn't feel sticky, or didn't feel sticky when I was applying it. It was able to move around a little bit better. So I feel like this foundation could have some potential to look okay, just not with the primer that is from Hard Candy. With another primer or on its own. But like I said, on its own, it doesn't last very long. I definitely think it needs a primer to be more long lasting. But it's still not my favorite. It still can look a little bit crusty, cakey. Not my preference for a foundation, but I'm going to show it to you up close so you guys can see what it looks like now. It's definitely an improvement. You're definitely not seeing my pores as dramatized and terrible looking as it did previously, and you're not seeing my fine lines as much anymore. So as you can tell, this foundation just does look a little bit too dry on me. My skin just doesn't look the best in this, but this second application went a lot better than the first. I just really think that primer is terrible, and the foundation isn't great already, so it didn't need anything else making it worse, but it looks a little bit better now. Still not my preference for the way I want a foundation to look, but it's much better, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. So I don't have a concealer from Hard Candy, so I'm just gonna use what's in my makeup basket this month, and that is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer. I'm just gonna kind of speed right through this until we get to the next Hard Candy product. Alright, now to set my face. To be honest, right now I don't feel like I super need to set my face because this foundation is so dry, but oddly enough it does feel tacky. Like, I don't know if you could tell, like my fingers sticking to my skin right here. I don't like the way that feels, so I definitely don't want to go in with like contour powder or anything like that with it feeling sticky. So I am just going to take a very, very big fluffy brush and go into the Hard Candy Blurring and Pore Refining Powder and try to lightly dust that all around my face. I have tried this where I've applied it with a sponge like I normally do with my powders, and I kind of go in pretty heavy under my eyes. But with what I've learned with using these products together is that they can get cakey real quick when you apply too much, or do things the way I normally like to do my makeup. So I've just dipped that in there and I'm dusting a lot of it out, and I really want to just go in very, very lightly and light-handed. We're trying to give these products the best chance, even though I'm telling you right now I don't really care for them. Although this powder I don't not care for. I mean, I think it's a nice powder. I will continue using it, whereas I won't continue using that foundation. But it can be a little bit heavy, so I can't use it the same as I usually do with other lighter weight powders. Alright, and again, I don't have another product from Hard Candy for contouring or bronzing or anything like that, so I'm just going to go in with my Too Faced Cocoa Contour. So anyways, I'm going to run through this real quick as well. I've been favoring using this IT Cosmetics brush to apply my contour and bronzer. I just feel like it applies it so nicely too. Alright, and then for blush, I'm going to be using the Milani Baked Blush in the shade Red Vino. So before I do go in with highlight, which I do have a highlight from Hard Candy, I'm going to set my face, and I do have 3 setting sprays from Hard Candy that I want to talk about real quick. So I did get the matte setting spray. I did not really care for this. I do feel like it definitely, like, I feel it on my skin just almost like tightening a little bit. I'm not one who super loves matte setting sprays. I don't need oil control, let me just say that. I don't like super dewy setting sprays either. I just want like a setting spray that'll just stay normal on the skin, if that makes sense. And I just didn't care for this one. I don't think it was terrible, but I did notice when I used it, I would get those little water spots on my face, so it didn't spray out the greatest, and I didn't like how it would leave like almost like I said, water spots on my face, and that kind of messes up your makeup. I don't like that. So I have a bit of this left, probably from what I can tell it's about to here. and I don't think I will continue to use it because I just don't like the way it goes out. I mean, it's not a terrible spray. It's a fairly fine mist-ish, but it does have some bigger spots that get you. So wasn't a fan of that one. Now the brightening setting spray I felt like sprayed out, let me see, fairly similarly, but much more fine, if you can tell. Do you see how it has, maybe you can't tell, but this one has a little bit more of a finer mist. It doesn't have any of those big water spots on it, and this one I have used quite a bit. It's probably about down to here. The only thing I don't really care for about this is it has a really weird smell, which none of the other ones do. It just has this like Band-Aid like smell, like almost a sterile Band-Aid smell. I don't know what it is, and I don't like that. So this would not be one I would repurchase at all. Actually, none of the setting sprays would be one I'd repurchase. But for me, I just, like I said, this one smells weird. I don't like that, and I didn't find that it was brightening at all. I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be brightening. I didn't get it. I didn't seem like it was that different. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to use maybe this setting spray on this half of my face and use the other one on this half of my face and see if there is a difference. So I never really did that, but I just was like, I don't feel a difference. So the last one I'm going to talk about is just their regular long wear setting spray. This one has a better, kind of similar to the brightening one, a little bit better of a mist. You can even tell, I don't know why I'm doing this. Doesn't leave the thicker water droplet spots on me. This one does not have any kind of weird sterile Band-Aid smell to it. And this is the one that I liked the best and used the most. And I'm probably like almost, it's like down to here. Pretty sure this is almost gone. So if any of them I would recommend, it would be this one. The other ones, not so much. But me personally, I will not repurchase these. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and use both of those. See how that works. So we're going to do brightening on my right side. Ugh, yeah, it stinks. Not a fan. Actually, this one does kind of a little bit of a scent to it. Not strong, but it's pleasant. It's much more pleasant than the brightening one. All right, so do we see a difference at all? This is the regular side and this is the brightening side. That is super weird. I am noticing now that I look in under these studio lights, I've never noticed this before out in daylight or even into regular lights. There is a bit of, if I look super close, I am seeing little, like almost flakes of not glitter, maybe shimmer. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's definitely not glitter, but something like glitter. So I wonder if that's what's supposed to give a luminosity. Also, I just have to say, it's amazing what setting spray can do. Even these ones that I don't like as much, like I feel like once you add setting spray to your base, like it just has a way of melding everything together. That's one of the reasons I love setting spray so much, because even though I don't love this foundation, I feel like my face looks pretty good. I really think that's just due to like the setting spray helping it pull together. Like once you add your powders and everything else and then just set it with some setting spray, it just melts everything together and my skin looks pretty good. Also, I'm pretty sure that It Cosmetics primer really helped this foundation as well. Alright, so the highlight shade that I got is their Rose Gold highlighter. It looks like this. It's actually a really pretty highlighter. Very nice. The packaging is very cheap. It's just like this plastic. This thing doesn't go all the way back. It just stops right here. It is very cheap like, but it's, I mean, this was only I think $5. It's whatever. I do think that the highlight performs very nicely, and I'm just going to do kind of a little mix of all three of them. I forgot to grab my highlighter brush and I don't feel like getting up, so I'm just going to use this Duo Fiber brush. See, I think that's just really pretty. It's a very nice highlight. It's not super blinding. It gives a nice sheen. It's not like too shimmery where, you know, feels like it accents every fine line and pore you have. I think it just looks really soft and beautiful. I really actually like the highlight quite a bit. I don't imagine I'd purchase, you know, more of them, but I'm not disappointed that I purchased this one, especially considering I almost didn't purchase a highlight. I almost purchased another primer to try, and I'm so glad I didn't do that. I really do think it's pretty. All right, so to finish off this eye look, I do want to go into this Earthly Vixen palette. And I forgot to tell you guys earlier, but these palettes do come with these little brushes. They're not like the best kind of brushes, but they're not terrible actually. I've actually used them a couple times when I was playing around with these palettes, and they're not too bad. There's one that's like has the little sponge tip applicators, and then one that has more of the actual hair brushes, and they're decent. So if you didn't have brushes and you ended up getting these, they wouldn't be the worst thing to use. But anyways, just thought I'd mention that real quick. So what I think I'm gonna do now is go into this shade here, which is Lost in the Woods, and run that across my lower lash line. So next I do want to go in with just Evergreen and apply that close to my lash line. Oh, it's actually applying pretty nicely. Yeah, see, these shades are just hit and miss. Some of them apply very nicely, like this one, and some apply like not at all, like that orange shade that I used. All right, and that's pretty much going to be it for the eyeshadows. And then also, I just want to note that I actually didn't get too much fallout down here because that green shadow did apply so nicely. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some liner real quick. I'm going to use this green one from Urban Decay. It's their shade Overdrive, just to match up with that green on my lower lash line. Anyway, so I'm going to use the Hard Candy Strokes of Gorgeous Bold Mascara. And I actually do think this is a pretty decent mascara. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it'll be something I repurchase again, but I don't think it's a bad mascara. The wand is very, very simple, just looks like this. There are other drugstore mascaras I like a lot better, but like I said, I don't think this is a bad one. I actually really like that it has this kind of very basic, kind of narrow wand, because it allows me to get my lower lash line really, really well. You can see, helps really define and lengthen them without getting a mascara everywhere, just because the wand's not huge. So I think my lower lashes look pretty good, if you can tell, but I will zoom in so you guys can see this look up close a little bit better. So here's one eye done. I think it does a pretty good job. All right, so here are both of my eyes done with the mascara. I do think it looks really, really nice. It gives a nice length, it gives a lots of volume. Definitely does give a good volume and decent length, and I'm not mad at the way my lashes look. They look pretty good. This is a pretty decent mascara. So to complete this look, I am just going to put on a little bit more of that lip gloss that kind of faded since the beginning of this video. And then of course show you the wear test footage of the foundation. Alright guys, so this is my foundation wear test. It is June 19th as I am testing this and plan to wear it all day. I wanted to apply it early in the morning so I can get an all day wear test. I want to mention that I first tried this foundation mixing it with the redness serum to test it, but when I mixed it and then applied it, it became very, very chunky and almost like clay and just turned the foundation really, really terrible, so I could not use it. So anyways, I had to wipe all that off, and then I did go ahead and start my routine at 7:45 this morning. I used the Fix It serum first on its own. Then I used the Instant Eye Fix treatment. Next, I applied primer and waited for a bit for it to set before I applied the foundation. When I did apply the foundation today, it did apply a very sticky, kind of patchy-like, possibly because of the primer. Out of everything, I find that my nose looked the most patchy after applying the foundation. After applying my foundation, I used the Pure Foundation Mini as my concealer. I used the Hard Candy Powder to set and the Hard Candy Brightening Spray. I let everything set like that for about 10 minutes. Then for contour, I used the Too Faced Cocoa Contour Palette, and my nose did look a little bit better once contour was applied. For blush today, I used the Dilute blush, cleaned up a touch around my face with the RCMA No Color powder, then sprayed my face again with the brightening spray. I let that set and applied the Hard Candy highlight and finished up my makeup at 8:10. I find that everything came together really well, and that is it for my first check-in. Okay, so we're at a little after the 6-hour mark since I put on this foundation. And I would say, like, if you're looking at my face overall, I don't think it looks terrible. It looks nice. It's up close where I feel like it doesn't look that great. It definitely looks a lot better than it has been looking when I wear it on its own. The last few times I've tried this foundation, I've worn it on its own, and I definitely don't think it lasts 16 hours. I feel like I said in my haul video, that maybe around the 4, 5 to 6 hour mark is where it starts breaking up on my skin and looking kind of crusty and weird, and I didn't really care for it. With a primer, I tried it with a no pore bloom primer, and I felt like it lasted really well and looked really good on my skin throughout the day, but that's definitely, I would contribute to the no pore bloom primer. Today, obviously, I'm wearing it with the Hard Candy primer, Hard Candy setting spray, and the Hard Candy setting powder and all that stuff, and I do think that overall it looks a lot better than it has been looking when I've worn it on its own. But the biggest problem for me is that it is still very much so a makeup-y looking foundation. It definitely looks kind of cakey, mostly around my nose and my like upper lip area. I feel like on my forehead and on my cheeks, almost every foundation seems to look really good in those areas, but where foundation I'm really more picky about it is how it lays on my nose and around my nose and that area, and it is looking very, very cakey up close to my nose, and I don't really love the way it looks. I feel like it is also doing some kind of weird makeup-y mustache thing around my upper lip area, so I don't really care for that. My chin is looking okay, but I feel like my chin doesn't look the best, and I can't say that that is due to the foundation itself. I wasn't really thinking about it, but I was just sitting at my desk editing a video, and I was playing with another makeup brush that I had sitting there, and it felt so soft, and I was pushing it against my chin, and I think I may have accidentally buffed off some of the foundation on my chin, so that's probably why my chin doesn't look the best. So we'll give the foundation a pass concerning my chin, but it really doesn't look great along my upper lip and my nose area. I really am not comfortable with the way it looks there. I just don't like the look of such makeup-y looking foundations. That's just my personal preference. So anyways, that's my first check-in. I'll try to check in a little bit later after a longer wear. But I don't imagine my thoughts will change. It'll most likely just be a check-in to show you what it's looking like after longer wear. It is 6:16. I always feel like you can't see the time, but 6:16. I ended up doing some eyeshadow because I'm trying to do some more looks with the Hard Candy palette. So this is a look with one of the palettes. So we're at this is I think the 10-hour mark, or a little past the 10-hour mark. I think, again, just like before, overall when I look at my face, looking in the viewfinder, it looks okay. I think from afar, from a distance, from a normal distance, it looks okay, but when I look close at it, I'm like, oh, I don't like the way this looks. I will say, though, that I feel like, however it looks now, I feel like, I don't know if we should count, because I was actually working out earlier. I discovered on YouTube the Fitness Marshal. He does a lot of dances and teaches you dances, and my daughter and I were doing a lot of his dances today. Probably for an hour and a half we were doing his dances, so I was sweating. I tried my best not to wipe the sweat or touch my face or anything like that, but I did drip some sweat. But I think actually, surprisingly, for sweating all over, it doesn't look too bad. But it doesn't look great. So I am going to go ahead and give you guys a close-up to show you what it's looking like up close and why I don't really love it. And you guys can just judge for yourself. Now hopefully you guys are going to be able to see what I'm seeing. I feel like in the video footage it looks better on the camera than it's looking in person. And I don't know if that's just because I think it's that golden hour right now, and the lighting that's coming through in my bathroom, even though it's natural lighting, I feel like it's making my skin look good. But really like I said, the rest of my face, around my cheeks and even my forehead, even though I was sweating, doesn't look too bad, like I said earlier. but it's mostly around my nose and right above my upper lip. It just looks very, very makeup-y, very cakey, not quite crusty, but I can't quite explain it. It just looks really, really weird, and I just don't love the way it looks. Surprisingly, it actually still feels pretty good. Like my skin, I can touch it, it feels good, but I don't know. I just don't love the way it looks up close. It looks really not great. So that's my thoughts. I probably won't do another check-in because I probably just won't want to, but don't love this foundation. Alright, and that wraps it up for my full face of hard candy products and my thoughts after trying them for the last month. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Even though there were so many kind of flops and fails of these products, I still am very glad that I bought them to try them so I can relay that information to you, because these are very, very affordable products, and while they look beautiful, like they definitely pulled me in. That's what caught my attention. I saw them, they looked beautiful, they looked high quality, they looked very, very intriguing, and the price was a really, really great price. And so I thought, oh my gosh, if these are good, what an amazing find these would be, and amazing products to talk about and be able to recommend to you guys. But affordable or not, if they are not performing well, or if they're just not good products, good quality, then you're wasting your money regardless of the price. So, you know, now you guys know what works, what doesn't, what I recommend, what I don't, and you guys got to see them in action, so you can essentially choose for yourself what you think would work for you, because everybody has different preferences, everybody has different you know, desires for what they want their makeup to do and how they want it to perform. So the way I want my makeup to perform might be different than how you want it to perform. So some of these items that I didn't think were that great, you might think are great, and now you know. So hopefully you found this video helpful and all that stuff. So with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. I just want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, much love and hugs to you. Bye, beauty babes. Mwah!